Thank you, Matt. I talk quite loud, so if I'm too close to the microphone at any stage, just let me know. Before I start, I wasn't able to be here this morning, so I've missed some of what has happened, but I just was wondering, would anyone like to tell me why they've come here today? So just a little bit of insight into what brought you here today. Any volunteers?
So I'm really into this stuff. I am a yoga teacher myself. I had a baby 9 months ago, and I think when a baby comes into the equation, everything else goes out the window. So I do feel like I'm back to work now, but I do feel like I went back to work. Everything was like, it was kind of on autopilot. You just dealt with whatever was coming, and it was fine. I love work, and I think now that everything's kind of settling in, I feel a little bit stuck in a rut. I don't even know if that's the right word to use, but I just feel like I need to reset.
Fab.
And then I want to take it to that.
It all aligned.
I was trying to figure out how to come with the baby. Obviously not pregnant, but then when I wanted to take it, I was like, I'm making this work. This is the time that I have to go.
Great.
And so far, so good.
Good. I hope I don't disappoint. I was delighted to be asked to be here, and the reason I said yes was I feel it's really important to tell our stories, and it's really important to celebrate success, but I also think it's really important to be vulnerable and to share the highs and the lows. And for me, I suppose I talk a lot about my mental health. I talk a lot about my ADHD diagnosis, and I think it's really important for people to see the ups and downs behind the success of maybe a brand or a person, and also the challenges that are real. So I suppose I wanted to come here to share my story and my truth, and if even one person finds a little bit of comfort in that or takes something valuable away, I'm really happy that I was able to be here and to give my time. So little bit of an introduction. So I'm Geraldine Jones. I'm the founder and CEO of Skin Formulas. I have been in the skin and beauty industry for 21 years now. It's all I've ever known, it's all I've ever wanted to do. I did my Leaving Cert at 16. I went straight into beauty college. I travelled all around Ireland. I travelled the world. I worked in lots of different clinics and salons. And I moved back to Dublin in 2012. And I was working for somebody in Dublin. And I wasn't happy, I suppose, is the best way of putting it. There was a lot of things happening in my life at the time, and I felt very unhappy, uneasy, and felt a huge amount of anxiety. And kind of coming full circle, I have always wanted to make people feel good about themselves. And I found I was at a place in my life where I was probably at my most unhappy. And I decided that I suppose I needed to take action and I needed to do something. From a very young age, I had the desire to make people feel good. I lost my mother at 15 to cancer, and while she was unwell, something that gave her a huge amount of joy was rubbing moisturiser into her hands, her feet, putting on her face cream, putting on her blusher for her, and that intense feeling of happiness that I got from making her feel good was something that just really resonated with me, and I really believe it was kind of at the core of why I moved into this industry. So this isn't gonna, my nails are too long, I think. No. Here we go. So, Skin Formulas, just a little bit about who we are. We are a results-driven skincare brand, and I formulated this brand to meet the needs of my customer. We are all about giving our customer what they need in terms of the ingredients that their skin requires, the experience that you get when you use our products through our beautiful textures, our aromas, but also the feeling that it gives you through that moment of self-care when you take that time for yourself to use the products. We have a retail store here in Kenyon Street in Neenah. We have a 2,500 square foot warehouse just by the Fitness Factory where we pick, pack and ship all of our orders. We have a manufacturer in the UK. We have 3 manufacturers in South Korea, and we have a new manufacturing partner in Turkey. We're stocked in 160 businesses nationwide, and last year we moved into Lithuania. So we are growing, and we are very excited about the next 12 months. We're expanding rapidly at the moment, and we're doing a huge amount of work on the brand to ensure that we are always coming back to what our values and our missions for the brand are. Going to happen for me. So the vision when I created the brand was very clear. I wanted Skin Formulas to be a product range that everybody trusted and believed was really going to do the best for their skin. We were always going to try and be innovative and honest with integrity about what went into our products, how they would benefit people's skin, and I wanted it to be the best product that was on the market, both nationally and internationally. And we did this through the innovation that went into the research, into the products, but also our customer first focus. The values that are within the brand, I think, is something that is really, really important. So the values for the skincare brand, but also for my company and for my team, we are always customer focused. We believe in innovation, we believe in excellence, we believe in collaboration and long-term vision. The decisions that we make while developing our products are all about ensuring that there's sustainable growth and lasting impact in everything that we do. This just does not want to work for me. Okay, so my long-term vision. So when I started out in the industry, I moved to Nina and I opened a clinic 10 years ago called Mediskin. And again, the vision was to make people feel good about themselves and to help them with their skincare journeys. I was stocking 10 different brands on the shelf, and I still felt like I wasn't getting the products and the results that I needed for my clients. So I decided to start formulating my own. I felt that I really needed to simplify skincare for my customers because it was very confusing, it was very complex, and I felt like people weren't sure what they were using or why they were using it. So I started looking at ingredients that worked, sustainably sourcing everything where we could, and creating a skincare brand that worked. My vision around the culture for my company was something that was really important to me. I mentioned that when I was living in Dublin, I was working somewhere that I felt really unhappy. And it was because of the culture in that business. It was toxic, it was really negative. There was a really bad communication amongst the team in terms of what the goals were for that brand. It was all about sales and targets, and it wasn't about the customer, what the customer needed. And for me personally, that wasn't what I believed our industry was about. So I found it very challenging and I found it very difficult. And the first thing that I promised myself when I opened my own business was that I would create a culture where people felt happy to come to work every day, they felt excited, they felt safe, there was psychological safety, and that the core of what we would do in terms of our culture was treating people with respect. And over the last 10 years, I've ensured that anybody who has come to work with me has shared those same values and has aligned with that. So as my role in CEO, it's something that's extremely important to me in everything that we do, is that we're looking after people and making people feel good about themselves. So from a very young age, I always knew that I wanted to have my own business. And I suppose visualization was something I was doing before I even realized it was a thing. And I remember in my very first job in the industry, the lady asked me, where do you see yourself in 10 years' time? And I said, owning my own clinic. And literally 10 years to the month, I opened my business in Nina. And very early days into the clinic, I knew I wanted to formulate my own range of products because I wasn't happy with what was happening there. And every single year from when I opened that business to when I sold it last year, I drew a vision board and I mapped out exactly what I wanted to achieve in that year. And again, without probably realizing the power of that, it was something that kept me focused on my goals and kept me going back to what I really wanted to achieve within the business and for the brand. I have had lots of career highlights and milestones, but everything always comes back to me, the customer, and the results that we've achieved for them. I had a client message me very early days into launching the brand to say that her husband had an amputated leg and he used to get a lot of sores, and he started using our Clear Skin Serum, and within 2 weeks of using it, it had completely cleared and had transformed his quality of life. And it was messages like that that even from the very early days kept me motivated and kept me on my mission to create products that make people feel good about themselves, but that also like delivered life-changing results for people. Okay, so my ADHD diagnosis. So I was diagnosed with ADHD in my late 30s. And it's something that growing up has been a huge challenge for me, but I've never actually realised that it was ADHD. I have suffered with anxiety for many, many years, and I always thought it was kind of just an uneasiness or whatever that kind of made me the way I was. And I would often have people say to me, like, how do you do what you do? How do you do everything? And I kind of just said, it's just the way my brain works. And through my ADHD diagnosis, I've really understood what that actually means and how my brain actually works and how it works differently and how it has shaped my leadership style. So when I worked in those environments that I felt were really toxic and really not nice to be in, I didn't realise at the time that my heightened emotional sensitivity was because of my ADHD, and also because I really do believe that people should deserve to be in a space where they feel safe and comfortable. So what this has done in terms of my leadership style has ensured that everybody who works within my team feels safe, that there's psychological safety, that they feel included. We have an open door policy, we're very flexible, but it has allowed me as well to really embrace difference in people. It has allowed me to adapt when working in different styles. It has been challenging for me at times because when I was in school, the subjects that I really disliked, I really struggled with, and the subjects that I loved, I excelled in. And ironically, the subjects that I hated in school were business and maths, and now business and maths are literally my life day to day. So learning to understand new skills, to adapt to how I now understand my brain works, has really affected how I've led my company, but also how I interact with other people. And communication has been a huge part of, I suppose, the last 10 years of my life, interacting with people and understanding how different people communicate. Business and mental health is something that I suppose I really wanted to focus on today. As I mentioned, in my, I suppose, late teens, early 20s, I suffered really badly with mental health, and anxiety was something that crippled me. And ironically, again, I didn't actually realise what it was anxiety. So I always knew that I had a kind of an unease. My friends always knew that if we were on a night out, I could disappear like that because I'd suddenly feel uncomfortable or feel like I couldn't be in that space. And if we were going anywhere or doing anything, I'd need to know what time we were going to be there, what time we were leaving, who was collecting us, who was dropping us. Like I felt this complete and utter anxiety, but not actually understanding what that was. So while I was working in that position in Dublin, I was managing a clinic with 20 people, and the owner was very, very difficult, very challenging. And I remember one particular day, I sent out a mail shot to our customer base, and there was a spelling mistake. And I sent out the mail shot while I was fully booked with clients for the day, running the team, working front of house, and I pressed send and I got a phone call. And she was screaming down the phone because there was a spelling mistake in the email. And I froze. I hung up the phone and I grabbed my chest. And I remember I went outside and I rang my sister and I said, I think I'm having a heart attack. I think I'm actually having a heart attack or a stroke. Something's happening. I don't feel well. And I was in Dublin, she was in Tipperary. She's like, don't ring me, like, go get help, find somebody. Anyway, I was taken to hospital by ambulance, and I genuinely thought they were going to tell me I was having a stroke. I had a panic attack. And it was my first ever panic attack. And I still remember the doctor asking me, do I suffer with anxiety? And I was like, no. And he started kind of talking about the symptoms and what it would present like, and asking me about what I had experienced at work that day. And he was like, that was a panic attack. And it was like I had a full circle moment of finally understanding what it felt like to be living in my own body and to have clarity around all of these feelings that I'd had for 15 years and finally actually getting to understand it. And unfortunately, the panic attacks continued for probably about 3 years, on and off at different stages. And even when I really started to look after myself and look after my mental health, seeing a therapist, medication at different stages, until I actually took the time to fully stop and reset and look after myself, nothing was really changing for me. So I made the decision to leave my job. I took some time away. I started yoga. I started doing some breath work. I started seeing a therapist more regularly. And I basically wrote a list of all of my non-negotiables for my life. And that was everything down to, I wanted to make sure that every single day I got some form of exercise. I wanted to make sure that I was eating well. I wanted to make sure that I got 8 hours sleep. If I was going to meet a partner, they needed to accept all of my non-negotiables. I wasn't willing to accept a partner who wasn't respectful, who didn't care for me. I wanted somebody who wanted to spend time with my family. I made this huge list. And I said, I really wanted to meet somebody. And I spent about 12 months working on myself and working on that list and making sure that everything in my life aligned with who I wanted to be and what I wanted to bring into my life. Now that I'm hearing all these things about abundance and bringing all these things into your life and visualization, I understand what I was doing, but at the time I didn't even realize what I was doing. But I decided that I was only going to accept things into my life if it really truly made me happy. About maybe 3 or 4 months into kind of working through my list, I came back down to Tipperary one night and I went to Thurles to, I think it was the watermill at the time, and I met my husband. So he ended up actually, he was a brother of a friend of mine, as it happens, but I hadn't seen him in years, and we just got chatting. And it was like an instant moment. He had been through a very similar situation in his own life. He'd been in a bad relationship, and we both just kind of like connected on a mutual understanding that we were only going to accept what was right for us and a mutual respect on our own personal interests and what we wanted to achieve in our lives. So fast forward, 11 years later, we're married, 2 kids, house, everything. But it was only when I took the time to truly decide what I wanted to bring into my life and what I wanted to accept or not accept that the panic attacks started to ease, the anxiety started to ease. I was able to move forward in my life. Within 9 months of meeting my husband, I had decided I was actually going to leave Dublin and move home. So I handed in my notice. 4 weeks later, I moved back and I opened Mediskin. And from that moment, and from when I again kept making those lists, kept kind of putting those goals and those values and things on paper and looking at them every day and kind of taking small steps to achieve them, that everything kind of started to come into place. How I stay emotionally invested in life and in my business is I keep coming back to my values and what I want to achieve for myself. I suppose my bottom line, both personally and professionally, is that I love helping people. And Tommy mentioned this as well. I genuinely get a buzz out of helping people to achieve their own best results, if it's a business scenario or if it's a customer who's coming to me for skincare advice or if they've got any issues. Like while I worked in the clinic for 10 years, I sat face to face with people. Sometimes they were coming because they had skincare issues, and sometimes they were coming because they were maybe lonely and they actually really wanted a chat. And equally, I feel like the word therapist from a skincare point of view and from an emotional point of view really overlapped. And I could see it in people. I had a young guy who used to come to me every single month for 4 years for acne. And his acne was gone after about 6 months. But he continued to come back, and it was a safe space for him to speak and talk about his feelings, talk about what was happening in his life, be vulnerable, have conversations. And I see the difference in him from when he first started coming to me to when we finished. And actually, I did a lot of things with him in terms of visualization and setting goals. He was stuck in a bit of a rut himself. He was also in a very bad relationship. And to see him now, he's engaged, building a house, he's a great life for himself. But he recently, I met him, and he said to me, you know, I really miss our chats in Mediskin because I'm not there anymore. And I was like, well, come into my office and let's have a chat and let's catch up. And he's like, I've continued to do what you've said to me. And he's like, it's now part of literally my daily habits. I think about all of the things that I want to bring into my life, and I practice it every single day. And he's like, I never would have had that if I didn't have those conversations with you. So he's like, thank you for creating a really safe space for me to be vulnerable and to share my thoughts and to share my wishes and my wants and my values with you, because it's now allowed me to be where I am today. So I found it very emotional, and I found it very rewarding that, yes, I want my products to help people with their skincare issues or their skincare goals, but for me it's about connecting with people and it's about helping people. I'm definitely somebody who gets quite overwhelmed. Sharon is my PT. I've been with her for 2.5 years now, I think. And more often than not, I come into Sharon on a Thursday morning and I'm absolutely wired, or I'm overwhelmed, or I'm stressed, or I'm something. So it's definitely something that I'm still very much working on. And I do find that for me, exercise is something that allows me to get out of my own head, and it obviously creates those endorphins and things that give you that feel-good energy. But for me, I definitely feel like there's lots of different tools that I've used to overcome overwhelm. Something as well, I think Tommy was just mentioning it as I was coming in, like I don't necessarily enjoy speaking at these types of events. And I remember my very first event that I attended 10 years ago. It was in Westport, and I made my husband take the day off work to drive me to Westport, to pep talk me the whole way down in the car. I walked in, I attended the event, and I came back out to the car, and like I was shaking like a leaf. And what I've done to overcome that is basically tell myself that I love doing these, that I really enjoy them, that I'm so excited about it. And so for the last 24 hours, I've been literally at home skipping and singing, saying, I can't wait to go, I'm so excited, I'm really excited about this, and it's going to be brilliant, and it's going to be fantastic. And then I come in and, you know, you do have that moment where the hands start shaking, the knees start going, but I continue to tell myself that I'm enjoying it, and it's lovely, and when I leave, I'll feel great because of the energy in the room. But also because I hope that in some of the things that I've shared today, somebody has found a little bit of comfort or help or solace in knowing that if they're feeling a similar way, that there are ways to come through it, that it's a common thing, lots of people feel it, and that we can all help each other to get over these things. So one of the biggest things for me in terms of overwhelm, it's the simplest thing in the world, but somebody actually had to tell me it, is to breathe. And I am definitely somebody who struggles with breathing. I know we all do it automatically day in and day out, but I definitely wasn't breathing correctly. So I was breathing very much short breaths into my chest. And maybe at the start of last year, I was probably the most anxious I've been in 10 years. Extremely stressed, lots going on, juggling probably a little bit too much. And I started really focusing on breath work. And my very first breathwork session, my entire body from head to toe went into pins and needles. I was bawling, crying, I was in convulsions. I couldn't understand what was happening to me. But it was literally my body's response to me breathing correctly, deeply. And it was so unusual for my body that I had this full body response. And since then, I've really focused on breath work, taking short, quick breaths in the middle of the day. Before I walked into this room, I took 4 big deep breaths outside the door just to try and calm my nervous system. I am somebody who has probably for 8 or 9 years really lived in flight or fight mode. And I probably didn't even realize I was in that because I was so in it. And it was basically when someone said to me, you know, what do you do for fun? Like, what's your hobbies, or what do you like to do? And I couldn't answer them. I actually couldn't say one thing, apart from being with my husband and kids. And I was like, what do I do for fun? And I honestly stood there for a couple of minutes and was like, I can't remember the last time I had fun. And I would have refused things with my friends, or my husband would suggest doing something, I'd say no because I've work, or I'm going to be tired and I've this and I've that. And I realised that I was so worried about being tired or not being able to function correctly or not being able to perform and do things that I stopped doing anything outside of my work life. And I would say that for 8 or 9 years I threw myself wholeheartedly into my business. And I decided in that moment of realisation that I was going to take back my self-care. I decided I was going to prioritize things for myself, and it was very difficult for me to do. I went back to work after I had my first baby when she was 6 weeks old. Not because I needed to, not because anyone told me I had to, but because I felt like I should. Like I had this expectation that people would say, look at your one at home, 6 weeks and she's still not back. And like this crazy notion that I should be working. And it's probably, I would say, my only regret in life. I don't really believe in regrets, but I do wish that I had given myself that time with my baby and to give myself that compassion and that care and that time. So in my moment of realization, I decided I was going to take up some new hobbies. I started painting last year and I absolutely love it. I did a 2-day sewing course and I bought a sewing machine the next day. That's my ADHD brain. I just went full on, I'm going to do this. So I sew and I paint and I absolutely love them. I've also gone back playing Gaelic football with my local parish mothers and others, and I absolutely love it. I get to see my best friends who I feel like in the last maybe 10 years have kind of slightly drifted away from because we just haven't had time together. So I've non-negotiables now in my week that are like a meeting in my diary. I go to Sharon once a week, I go to the gym myself when I can. I swim because I love to swim, but I go to my football training, I go to my paint class, I sew at the weekends to my heart's content, sewing pillowcases and all sorts, but just to give myself time to not be in my own head and to allow myself to be creative and to feel joy and to have that happiness in my life. Because if I think about what makes me happy, or if I think about what will kind of calm me if I'm overstimulated or if I need some regulation, it's connection. It's connection with people and it's a hug. So a hug from my daughters, a hug from my husband, a hug from a friend, but that powerful connection of people. And even though I was working with people every single day for 10 years in my clinic, I was constantly giving and not receiving. And it was only when I started to kind of really take that time again that I realized how important it was to fill your own cup. And last year we launched a range of body products called Body Beautiful. And the whole idea behind Body Beautiful was to take back a moment for ourselves in terms of self-care. So I created 6 range of products which have orange and neroli scent. And the whole campaign was around daily rituals redefined. So taking time for yourself every single day, no matter what you're doing, and redefining a simple daily ritual. So whether it's in the shower, taking time to exfoliate your skin, use your shower gels, and doing it with intent. Taking time when you step out to apply your body oil, to apply your moisturizer. And if it's 10 minutes a day that you're giving yourself, that you're taking that moment of self-care. It might be the time that you do your affirmations, it might be the time that you do your gratitude, it might be when you say your prayers, whatever that is for you, but it's taking that time to connect with yourself. And I really feel that since I've done that, it has hugely helped me to appreciate myself and my time that little bit more. So that was our whole kind of philosophy around what we were trying to do with the Body Beautiful range. Probably should have skipped this on about 10 times. Anyway, let's see. Doesn't want to. Okay, we've gone through this a bit. The why that keeps me going. My core motivation, I've mentioned it 4 or 5 times now, but it really is to help other people. And it's to help other people create space for their own self-care. I truly believe it's so important. And at one stage, I think it was last year, I said to Sharon, go and take a break now from the PT. I have too much going on, I'm too busy. I don't think I'll be able to. And she was like, why don't you just see? Why don't you just, come again and we'll see. And I was so glad that she gave me that little nudge, because I knew Sharon wasn't doing that because she needed the business. I knew she was doing it because she sees a difference in me from when I walk into that gym, stressed and anxious and overwhelmed, to when I leave, feeling so happy, so delighted with myself, full of energy and ready to take on the day. So she could truly see the value of me having that time for myself. And even if it was that one day in my week that I was taking that time for myself. What also motivates me is the people that I meet, the messages that I get, saying how our products have transformed their skin and in turn their confidence. And as I mentioned, that young guy, it really gave me such a boost to hear that. Having those conversations with me and having those chats, for me, was maybe an hour in my day, but how it had such a huge knock-on effect to him moving forward in his life and creating a life for himself that he really valued. I've learned lots of lessons in the last 10 years. I was thinking about this morning again, and I think being resilient and being adaptable are probably two of the biggest things that I've learned in the last 10 years. I think innovation and hard work are definitely needed, but being able to pivot and be adaptable, I think, are two of the most important things in life and professionally. And I think the big example of this for me was COVID. March 2020, maybe 2 weeks into March, I had a miscarriage. And it was a really, really obviously difficult and challenging time. And I just remember feeling so low. And I remember saying to my husband specifically, like, I just don't know how I'd get over this. And I kind of felt like nothing could possibly get harder. And then a couple of days later, everything was shut down. And my 2 businesses were closed. I had to tell a team of 11 people that they were being laid off. And it was a really, really dark and challenging time. And I had a moment of, right, what am I going to do? Do I just get into bed now and cry for the next couple of months? Or do I try and adapt and pivot and see how I'm going to make the most of this and how we're going to get through it stronger? So at the time, Skin Formulas was just a B2B business. We didn't have any direct consumer website. So all of the clinics that we stocked were closed. My own clinic was closed. We were stocked in a couple of pharmacies, but people weren't buying products. So I decided to start working on a D2C website, direct-to-consumer e-commerce website. And we got a site together very, very quickly. And we started selling online. And even though I was in one of the darkest places of my life, I went onto that camera every day and I talked about my products. I talked about how people could use them, at-home facials, self-care, everything. And within a couple of weeks, we had sales that were probably 4 times sales that we've ever had since the company had started. And really, it was a turning point in the company. And everything really started to move. Once I could see that what I was doing was working and people were responding, I decided that this was actually a perfect opportunity for me to kind of adapt and pivot. So we moved all of the product into fulfillment. Up to that point, myself, my husband, my 9-month-old baby, from 6 a.m. until 11 or 12 o'clock at night, we're picking, packing and shipping products from my house. And then a month after that, thankfully I fell pregnant on my second child. So there was a lot going on. And we moved the product into fulfillment, and I really kind of sat down. And again, I started working on a list. I started working on how am I going to, at the end of this, make sure that my business and my companies are stronger than they were before this. So I started working through that list every single day. Started working on new formulations, started working on products that I knew our customers needed, but I kind of hadn't had the time to get to. And I started working on a plan of how, when the clinic opened up and when Skin Formulas got back up and running, we were going to make sure that everything that we were doing was more streamlined, our processes and everything. So I kind of feel that taking that time and taking that step back and pivoting and being resilient and adaptable has been something that from that point I now take into my personal life and my business life every single day. And I feel like the underlying piece of me that has served me best has been trusting my gut. I would say that I'm somebody who's very confident in my own ability. I'm more confident probably in my professional life than I am in my personal life. But trusting my gut has been something that has definitely gotten me where I am today. And I suppose being more confident and working on my anxiety and how to overcome things. I said to Sharon a couple of different times, I was in the gym one day and I said hello to somebody and she didn't say hello back, and I was like, you know that embarrassing moment of you've said hello and they don't really say hello back and it's a bit awkward. And I said to Sharon, 6 months ago, I would have left the gym and went home. I would have been so embarrassed I wouldn't have actually been able to stay there. Now that's a small example, but that would have actually tipped me over the edge for the rest of the day. Whereas I turned around and laughed at Sharon and I was like, oh, there I am. And another day, Sharon said something to me like, oh, I love you've a lovely top or something, or your face looks lovely. I thought she said, your face looks lovely. And I was like, oh, it's my Hydro Bronze, you know, my tanning. And she was like, your fleece? I was like, again, 6 months prior, that would have tipped me over the edge and I would have had to absolutely ran out the door. But I was like, you know what, it's okay. Like, it's okay. I'm unconditionally myself and unapologetically if something embarrassing happens to me now, I'm just like, do you know what, it's grand. These things happen to people all the time. Just get up and get on with it. But it's because I have taken the time to really work on myself, to work on my confidence, to work on what's really important. And I definitely feel like what I've done for myself in the last 12 months in terms of my self-care will really help me in the next 12 months and hopefully the next 12 years to continue to grow personally and professionally. So we have lots coming with Skin Formulas. We are hopefully moving into Latvia, Turkey, the UK, Europe and Australia in the next 6 months. I'm continuing to guide my team. We're building our community and staying true to our purpose. So one of the things, as I mentioned, have been really important to me is my people, be it my team, our customers, our community. And just last week, we became B Corp certified, which for anyone who doesn't know is basically a commitment that what we are doing is not just about making money. It's about making sure that we are giving back to people, our community and the planet. So we are working in ways where we can be more sustainable, we're working in ways where we can help the community, fostering a really, really good environment for our people to work in, and being mindful of every decision that we make and what kind of a knock-on effect that will have. I'm in the middle of a postgraduate diploma with Queen's University in Belfast, and it's in innovation management. And for me, it's really important that I continue to learn, that I continue to grow, not only as a leader, but within my industry in terms of our innovation, and how that will help us to be the best that we can be within our industry and also for our clients. I've also literally started learning Turkish because we are moving a lot of our business to Turkey. It's an extremely difficult language. I don't know if anyone has ever spoken Turkish or spoke to Turkish people, but it's really challenging. But I've set myself a goal of spending 15 minutes a day working on learning this language. And I mentioned maths and business of something that has always been really difficult for me, but languages somehow I tend to pick up quite easily. So I love that I'm challenging myself every day to do more, to learn, to invest in myself personally and professionally. But I suppose to finish, if I was to give any advice to anybody, be it personally or starting your own business or whatever it might be for you, is to just back yourself. I mentioned I'm quite confident in my own ability. I think over the years, if I wasn't confident in myself and what I can achieve, I don't think I'd be where I was today or where I am today. I've definitely had a huge amount of help and support. I have incredible people in my life, my team, my family, people like Sharon who lift me up every single day. But trusting in yourself and being really clear on what it is you want to achieve. If I've learned anything in my last 10, 15 years, it's being very clear on what I want for my life, be it personally and professionally, and taking small steps every single day to achieve them. And I suppose that is something that I want to end on, is trust in yourself, believe in yourself and back yourself. So, thank you.